Hello everyone, welcome to the first official book podcast episode. I am your host Maddie, and today in this podcast, I guess we can start out because this is completely new. In this podcast we'll be talking about books, like my TBRs, my monthly reads, everything I want to get accomplished in the month for book reading wise. We're going to be comparing some books from their shows. We're going to be talking about some of you guys' favorite books and what I think about those books. So we're just going to be doing a little bit of everything. So today's episode, I want to talk about my March books that I want to read, currently reading, and my TBR, which is to be read. So let's go ahead and get started with my read books that I read in the month of February. A lot of these I reread because I forgot the plot, but some of these I just love so much that I want to reread, which is really crazy because I usually don't reread books that I love because I feel like it gets boring, but I want to reread some. So we're gonna start with Check and Mate. Check and Mate is a romance book, and I loved it so much. It was such a cute little scenery. The plot was amazing. I loved it so much. Honestly, that book probably needs to get a movie because I would definitely watch the movie because it was amazing. I love that book so much, and I found even more books by the same author, and people have been recommending me books from the same author, and I'm like, that's on my TBR because I really want to read some some more of her books. Yeah. Anyways, the book was about a girl, Mallory, who basically, I wouldn't say that she hated chess, but she had sworn herself she would never do chess ever again. And, one day her friend is like, come on, you have to come do chess with us so we can win this competition. She wins the competition against one of the most famous chess people ever. Forgot his name because he was not that important to me, even though he was one of the main characters. I only know his last name. Nolan. So she went against Nolan Sawyer, and basically after that they just basically fell in love, even though she was practically terrified of him because he had a track record for when he lost that he would rage, and someone said that he flipped the table when he lost, so immediately when she won, she ran away, which was really funny. Yeah, so the next book, I actually reread this book. I actually got this book last year, but I reread Blended, and it's about a girl whose parents get a divorce, and she's trying to adjust with all the new the new adjustments, the weekend trade, weekend trade custody type thing. I also reread City Spies. So City Spies, I reread City Spies because one, I got the second book and I liked the second book more than the first book, which I can talk about that in another video. City Spies, the first one, it was pretty boring when I reread it. I remember when I first read it, I was completely obsessed with it, but it didn't catch my interest too much, and I really honestly think it's because my palate when it comes to reading is growing. So yeah. The next one that I reread, oh my gosh, Sweet and Sour. I completely loved this book. Honestly, once again, if there was a movie for this, I would watch the movie. So where's the movie at? So can we go ahead and talk about the fact that this was practically an enemies to lovers book, but the love interest didn't even know that they were enemies? Yeah, moment of silence for that, because I feel that made the plot much more interesting, because usually when you see enemies to lovers, it's they're both enemies with each other, but no. And for the plot of this, I would say this is Summer I Turned Pretty, but if they were enemies. So the reason I say it's Summer I Turned Pretty because every single summer they go to a beach house for the summer because their moms are friends. You cannot tell me that does not sound like The Summer I Turned Pretty. You can't You cannot say that's the best. You cannot say that does not sound like the summer I turned pretty. So, I really liked the book. It had a great plot. I would have to say, I feel like we didn't need to go through all the faking, being friends with people, so that way, we could get revenge. And I really think the plot was so chaotic. And, but it's kind of true, because, usually when you're around that age, 13, 14, 15, you don't tell the person that you're enemies with that you're enemies with them, because then they're gonna, think something's wrong, they're gonna try and get at you. So it's you try to do everything in secret, try to have a plan, but it backfires. So that's exactly what happened. That it backfired on her. But I really love that book. It's probably one of my most favorite books that I've read in the past year, since January I started it. That and Check and Mate. I'm still stuck on Check and Mate. Check and Mate is just, oh my gosh, it's a masterpiece, honestly. And the last book that I reread, because I only read one new book in February. Well, that's a lie, because my currently reading counts. I just finished only one book that I read in February. Doesn't matter. So, Harry Potter. Okay, I'm gonna say it. I like the book more than the movie. Because the book... I like the movie more than the book. Because that's usually unusual, because I usually like the book more than the movie. But I like the movie more than the book, because the movie, I feel like there was much more, obviously when it comes to movies and stuff, there's art. It's practically art. But I think with the book, it's just some scenes dragged on way too long, and I got bored. Because I've been reading that book since January. Because I didn't really reread Harry Potter. I just never finished Harry Potter. Because I started reading it December something. Didn't finish because I got bored. So I was I'm going to start from the beginning in January. So I started from the beginning, and once again I got bored, and I just recently finished the book. It wasn't too interesting to me. It really wasn't. I watched the movie in one sitting, and I feel like the movie had shorter scenes than in the book, because I feel for the book there was there was a lot of detail, maybe even too much detail in the book, if you get what I'm saying. Maybe a little too much detail in the book, so that way it got me bored. Because the more detail, the longer scenes in books drag on, or even scenes in movies drag on. You know what I'm saying? Don't come at me, because I love the movies, and I feel maybe it's just the first book, because, we have to meet all the characters in the first book, understand, what's going on in the school. So I do want to get the second book and try the second book, but if I don't like the second book, then I'm just going to stick to the movies. Because, yeah. So next up, I'm currently reading Bride. It's a fantasy romance, I guess. It's about vampires, it's marriage, all this stuff. Pretty good. I'm only on this third chapter. I'm only on the fifth chapter, so I can't really tell you too much, because I still don't know way too much. I'm still trying to understand. It's pretty confusing, the first few chapters I've heard, but it's kind of confusing to me. Next up I'm currently reading is Coraline. I watched the movie without even knowing there was a book, and only 3 years ago I found out there was a book, and I never had gotten the book because I don't know why, because I wanted to get the other books that were always in other places, so yeah. But I'm finally starting to read Coraline, and I'm on chapter, I want to say, hold on, let me check, because I don't know which one. I have to go get the book. Okay, so I just checked up on chapter 4, which actually is kind of surprising to me, because we're already past the circus part, obviously, but we're already at the Mrs. Fink and Miss Forcival, other Miss Fink, Miss Forcival, we're already there at the act. Right before, No, I'm actually past that part in chapter 4. I'm at where they ask her if she wants to become one of the Button Riot people. And I'm only on chapter 4. That's crazy. But there's a lot of differences in the book than there is in the, what's it called? There's a lot more differences in the book than there is in the movie, which obviously, There's no YB. I was expecting that. I didn't say I wasn't. I was expecting there to be no YB. So that was not the biggest shocker for me. But I wasn't expecting the dance act with Miss Pink and Miss Forcible to be different. Like, they had this entire acting scene instead of, like, the music scene and everything with, like, the mermaid or whatever. So yeah, that did come as a shocker to me, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. Then we had, I don't want to say the circus act because the circus act wasn't way too different, but the painting on the wall, as seen in the movie, the boy is, sad with the ice cream on the ground, and then when she walks through the other door, the boy has his ice cream and he's happy. But in the movie, it's like he's like playing with the bubbles, but when she walks through the other door, it's like he's playing with the bubbles, but he has like this evil smile on his face, which me personally, that would have given me enough to like walk right back through. Like, I would say the first night, but after that, I'm not coming back. Because the food must have been good. If you were coming back there every single night, Coraline. Yeah. The next one I'm reading is The Summer I Turned Pretty. Once again, I saw the show before the book. But I already knew there was a book. I just never really wanted to buy the book. Because I wanted to finish the show first. Because when it comes to like movies and shows, if it's a movie, then I obviously want to try the book first, because I'm not big on movies, but I'll watch the movie after maybe. But with shows, I like to watch the show first, because if I watch the show first, like it memorizes in my brain, and then I go to read the book and I see what the differences are, because I just like doing that. So if you ever assign me something that there's a show to, I'm probably going to tell you what I learned from the show first, because I always watch the show first. That way I can see the differences between the show and the movie. Because it's always been where the movie is, or the show is different from the book. And then, I'm reading The Breakup Tour. That's like Taylor Swift. It's Taylor Swift inspired, but the story is not based on Taylor Swift. But I didn't even know it was based on Taylor Swift until I opened the book, because it just looked good. Which I know you're not supposed to read based off the cover, you're supposed to read it based off the back, but I wanted to, try something new. So, anyways, I'm only on the second chapter of The Breakup Tour. So I can't really tell you too much about it, but yeah. Then I want to go ahead and talk about my TBR, which I'm not going to give any context on my TBR because I don't know what the TBRs are about. Really? So, yeah. Okay, so first thing on my TBR is Icebreaker. That's a romance. Love Theoretically, romance. Beach Read, I don't know. The Hating Game, I think, is Enemies to Lovers. So, I think it's a romance. Then I want to talk about the show versus books, because I was just talking about that. So show versus books, I think, is something that, nobody really talks about too much on their book podcast, but I think there's like people that do talk about it on their book podcasts. So I want to go ahead and get into that. So I have, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books that have either TV shows or a movie, and I want to compare them and tell you what I think about the movie or the show and the book, and which one I think is better. Okay, so the first book that I have jotted down here is The Babysitter's Club, and I think the show was pretty good, but I think that it could have been way better and much more like the book, but obviously not every single show is like the book, so I guess it is kind of pretty understandable. But The Babysitter's Club, it has 2 seasons. It doesn't cover all the books, which I thought it would, but at the same time, you can't really expect for it to cover all the books, because for one, there's a lot of books, and that would mean a lot of seasons, and and I think the show got canceled last year, so yeah. But I think that the books and the graphic novels are better than the show, but the show was not awful. The show is pretty good. It has good quality. The scenery is amazing. I definitely have rewatched it because it's good. The quality, awesome. Actors, amazing. They're on point. The plot, they stay on the plot. Oh my gosh, the episode titles are titled to the name of the book that they are doing the show based on, so I think that's pretty good, but I think for this one I'd have to give the prize to the book. Now, The Summer I Turned Pretty, the second season is pretty cringe. The first season is alright, the second season is pretty cringe. It made me laugh of cringe. It's funny, but cringy kind of funny. It's like, it's not something I would rewatch. I probably would rather rewatch the first season. And, and there's a third season coming out, so I might talk about the third season compared to the third book when the third season comes out. But for the first book, I think the book has some foreshadowing, like the mom crying tears of joy when she sees Susanna. Like, that's foreshadowing for what we find out near the middle end of the book. Don't we all agree? It's kind of foreshadowing what we learn out in the late episodes of season 1. Don't we all agree? It has to be foreshadowing, because if that's not foreshadowing, then I don't know what foreshadowing is. I'm sorry. If that's not foreshadowing, then I don't know what foreshadowing is anymore. Harry Potter. I've said this one before. I like the book less than the movie. I like the movie more than the book, because the movie was just pretty boring to me, not even gonna lie. So yeah, it's not that interesting to me, in my opinion. A series of unfortunate events. This one is a TV show. I'm only in like the second episode. So far the show is pretty good, and right now at the moment I have to give it to the show, but I'm gonna update you guys in the next episode if I think the show is better than the book, or if the book is better than the show. The Berenstain Bears was my childhood. I like to read the book. I read the books at school, watched the show at home. I think that the books had much more adventure, but the show was like much more fun and entertaining as a kid. But I think I would have to give this one to the book, because the book had way more adventure, had much more plot, and obviously the show is going to have adventure and a plot, because what's the show if there's no adventure, there's no plot. But I just feel like the book has way more of that, if you understand what I'm saying. Coraline, I think I have to give this one to the movie. That movie terrified me. It still does. It's a kid's horror, so, whoever thought that a movie about a doll with button eyes would terrify me like that? So yeah, I have to give it to the movie, because the movie is top notch. Green Eggs and Ham. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it belongs to the book. I watched the show because I wanted to. So you guys have zero right to judge. I watched the show, and can I let you guys know something? The show was so confusing. Like, every single episode, they was doing something else that had zero thing to do with the book. It had zero thing to do with Green Eggs and Ham. It was like Green Eggs and Ham Adventures or whatever. It's like, I don't even know what's going on. I was on the 7th episode, and I was so confused. So I had to give that one to the book, because what is going on in the show? It's confusing. It's Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I only recently found out this was a book, but I watched the early 2000s cartoon for Sabrina the Teenage Witch, so yeah. Anyways, yeah, so I watched the early 2000s show, so I cannot say this on the original 1980s, 1990s movie and TV show, because I only watched the early 2000s show, which was like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, blonde, yellow hair girl with her cat. She lived with a family, and she tried to learn magic, and she had friends. She went to school. Like, she did normal everyday stuff, but she was a witch. This one, I think I have to also give this one to the show, which I'm surprised how many I have to give to the show, but I think I gave a good amount to the books. I think when it comes to like gave more over cartoons that I used to watch, and maybe even still do watch. I don't really watch them too much because I only watch them on YouTube, and I don't like going on YouTube to watch TV shows because they be spamming with advertisements, and I don't like that. But I think this one's a Super Brilliant Teenage Witch only because that show and the theme song first. Can we start on the theme song? The theme song was a bop. The show was amazing, but I have to overall give it to it because of the theme song. Because the book is alright, but the theme song is amazing. So let's go ahead and do a quick summary over which ones won for books and which one won for show. Babysitter's Club won as a book. The Summer Turned Pretty won as a book. Series of Unfortunate Events, show. Harry Potter, movie. The Berenstain Bears. Oh my gosh. The Berenstain Bears, the book. Coraline, the movie. Green Eggs and Ham, the book. Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the show. So let's see. It's 1 for the books, 2 for the books, 3 for the books, 4 for the books, and as for shows, that's 1 for the show, 2 for the movie, 3 for the movie, 4 for the show. So it's 4 by 4, I guess. I'm not. Yeah, it's 4 by 4. So yeah, it's equal. I wasn't even trying to go for equal. I was just saying what I liked. But we are 20 minutes in, and this is kind of an introduction. I want to try and get 1 episode out each month. So this was just a quick introduction, share the podcast with your friends so that way they can get some more books, and there is a Discord server. If you guys want to share your book recommendations for me to read, and I can even give you guys shout outs if you guys join the Discord server will be linked in the description down below, and you guys can go to my channel about me and it'll be linked there. And this also gives you guys a chance to join the monthly book club. Fable will be linked in the description down below, and so my Goodreads, you guys can figure out what I'm reading, what I'm doing, all this stuff. Join the book club, aka Fable. Join the Discord server, which we will also be giving updates on the Fable book club there, because this book club is inside the Discord server, and the Discord server has the Fable link to it because that's the book club and everything. And you guys can also leave your books on book reviews, book recommendations, and I can give you guys shout outs. So yeah, I've got to go. Anyways, love you angels. Be safe, stay safe. It's your birthday. Happy birthday. Love you all so much, and goodbye.